Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. I welcome you all for His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj's daily online class. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Maharaj. Maharaj, we will be continuing from chapter 10. I'll just go ahead and share the screen.
Are you in India or in UK?
I'm back in UK, Maharaj, from this week.
Oh, okay. Which verse number is this? 22. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Deva Bhujo Nilavirya Koditam Sajivamayam Prakritim Sisriksatam Amana Upatapmi Upanamami Vidhi Samano Nusasaru Sastrakrit. Can you make the font a little bit bigger? It's a little small. Okay, good. Translation: the personality of Godhead again desired to give names and forms to his parts and parcels of the living entity, placed them under the guidance of material nature. And by his own potency, material nature is empowered to recreate. Living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord. There are two varieties, namely Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha. The Nitya Muktas are eternally liberated souls, and they are eternally engaged in reciprocation of transcendental loving service with the Lord in his eternal abode beyond the manifested mundane creation. But the Nitya Baddhas are eternally conditioned souls and are entrusted to his external energy, Maya, for rectification for their rebellious attitude towards all I can see. Towards the Supreme Father. Nitya Baddhas are eternally forgetful of their relation with the Lord as parts and parcels. They are bewildered by the illusion or energy as products of matter, and thus they are very busy in making plans in the material world for becoming happy. They go on merrily with plans, but by the will of the Lord, both the plan makers and the plans are annihilated at the end of a certain period, as above mentioned. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9:7 as follows: O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, living entities merge into my nature. And again, when the time of creation is ripe, I begin creation by the agency of my external energy. Or Bhuya indicates again and again, that is to say, the process of creation, maintenance, annihilation is going on perpetually by the external energy of the Lord. He is the cause of everything, but the living entities who are constitutionally part and parcel of the Lord, forgetful of the sweet relationship, are given a chance again and again to get rid of the clutches of external energy and to revive his living being's consciousness. The revealed scriptures are also created by the Lord. Vedic literatures are the guiding directions for the conditioned souls that they get free from the repetition, creation, and annihilation of the material world and material body. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, this world created world and material energy are under my control. Under the influence of Prakriti, automatically they create it again and again. And this is done by me through the agency of my external energy. Actually, the spirit spark living entities have no material names or forms. But in order the desire to lord it over material nature, of material forms and names. They're giving a chance for such false enjoyment, and at the same time, they're given a chance to understand the real position through revealed scriptures. The foolish and forgetful living beings is always busy with false forms and false names. Modern nationalism is the culmination of such false names and false forms. Men are mad after false name and form. A form of body obtained under certain conditions is taken up as factual. The name also taken bewilders the conditioned soul and misusing the energy in the name of so many isms. Scriptures are always supplied a clue in the real position. But men are reluctant to take lessons from the scriptures created by the Lord for different places and times. For them, the Bhagavad Gita is a guiding principle for all human beings, but by the spell of the same energy, they do not take care and carry out the programs of life and science in the Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study of knowledge for one who has thoroughly understood the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, people have no taste for them. Therefore, they are under the clutches of Maya, for repetition of birth and death. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvase Samsunyavari Astyatya Dane Sitarine Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhuve Vajapaditanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna. Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivan Puri Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama I just need 1 minute. I'll be right back. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
So, in various expressions or various ways, the Vedic literatures explain profusely how the living entity belongs to the spiritual world, but comes to the material world to enjoy separately, or to make an arrangement, try to enjoy separately. Well, the whole process of bhakti is to rescue the living entities from that entanglement in an energy that is meant to perpetuate the living entities' illusion that they can be happy here, or they can find success in activities they perform in this material world. So you find here's one of many millions of verses that explain the entanglement of the living. So there's a lot of emphasis put on it. And at the same time, the other emphasis is who is Krishna? What is his nature? What is his character? What is his activities? And what is our relationship with him, and how we belong to him and how to get back to him in devotion to him. So you see, this is the essence of all philosophical teachings. Entanglement of the living entity in the material world, and the actual position of the living entity in relationship to the absolute truth, the Supreme Lord, which is our eternal home in the spiritual world. So in so many ways, it describes that entanglement. And basically, the entanglement is of two natures. It's the desire to control and the desire to enjoy. These two characteristics cannot be separated. When one wants to enjoy separately, then one has to make an arrangement to control their activities and the energy that they are in contact with to try to enjoy. And so this is called a hard struggle, because the living entity cannot enjoy matter, because matter is contrary to the living entity's nature, intrinsic nature. As we explain, nature and natural is two words that are practically synonymous. And that what is natural is your nature. So it's not our nature to try to enjoy something that is outside of our nature or different than our nature. But we're in a foreign place, and therefore this hard struggle to enjoy simply ends up with a cycle. They create this cycle of continuously coming to this material world in various types of bodies. And the Lord has made it in such a way that there are 8,400,000 species of life. That means from the karmic understanding, there are various types of intricacies that make a particular type of karma. And mostly karma mostly applies, and not mostly, but completely applies to those that are above the lower forms of life. That means the humans and higher. And so in this illusionary struggle for happiness, there is a lot of plan making that goes on. And the material energy is meant to satisfy. We were talking about this, how material energy is designed in two ways, or has two features. It's designed in one way, but it has two features. And the one feature is to fulfill the desires of the living entities to be separate from the Lord. And the other feature of that same energy is to frustrate the living entity's desire to be separate, so they eventually wake up to the fact that they cannot be successful in anything they do in the material world. One, because it's contrary to their nature, and two, because it is temporary. So one has to understand this clearly before one can actually make advancement on the path of devotional service. The devotional service means to enter into a series of activities which extricate one from this entanglement, at the same time push one forward towards one's eternal relationship in the spiritual world. In other words, towards one's actual identity. And so, but as it says here, Prabhupada uses, very strong adjectives to describe the foolish living entities. Foolish means that, to make a mistake is not foolish, but to continue to make a mistake, the same mistake over and over again, is a sign of foolishness. The living entities, as it says in the Bhagavad napasyati, that they see that they're struggling, they see that their desires are frustrated, they see people dying, they see so many calamities in this world, but they continue on in the same vein, on the same mode of activity. It's almost like there's certain animals, such as a dog. Dog can be very stubborn sometimes. And the nature of the dog is to be stubborn. But despite, him being refused or being chased by a stick or whatever, he continues on acting in the same way and continues to try to put his program forward. He can't see that it's not going to work, and he can't see that it's not going to be beneficial for him. So, but that's dog. So, therefore, dog obstinacy applies to the conditioned souls in the material world. They can't get it, that this is not their place for happiness. Sometimes we use a little analogy to give some credit to the living entity. The analogy is that a man is walking along an open field and there's a covered well. He's not aware of it, and he steps on the cover. He falls into the well and he catches himself on the way down, and he's hanging on a branch. Along comes a tiger who comes to the top of the well and is looking down. And then when he looks down, he sees two eyes glaring at him from the bottom. And these eyes are the eyes of a snake. While he's holding onto the branch, he's seeing that there are two rats, one black and one white, who are chewing on the branch he's holding. So he can see very soon he will fall into the clutches of this deadly snake. But despite all of these inauspicious signs, there's a honey hive, a beehive in the well, and it's dripping honey out. And he's in range to get the honey, so he somehow or other positions himself, opens his mouth and catches some hot drops of honey as it's going into his mouth. And he's thinking, oh, well, this is actually quite nice. He's tasting this little bit of sweetness, but he's surrounded by inauspiciousness and death at any moment. But he pushes all of that aside just for that little drop of honey that comes every once in a while. So this analogy applies to the conditioned souls in the material world. They may get a little drop of some relief from the sufferings of the material world, or even some kind of so-called pleasure that they define in that way. And they think, oh, it's not so bad. There must be more of it around. And so they go on in their foolish way. but the inevitable time catches up with them. In due course, time just takes away everything that they live for, including their very body. And then they're forced to play the same game all over again in another body, somewhere in another place in the universe. And Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he's very merciful. He comes, but Lord Krishna is merciful, but he's not as merciful as Lord Chaitanya, who is also Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't give any rules, he doesn't give any regulations, he doesn't give any restrictions. He says, just chant the holy names of the Lord, offer your food in devotion, hear about me, and accept my mercy in the form of associating with spiritually minded people. But the living entity won't do that. Or if they do it, they hardly do it. They're so busy with their plan making that they're building their castles in the sand. And they're thinking, I have to take care of my castle. And so in order to become attentive to their castle making, they push everything else aside. And they go on, and then until something changes everything, and then they start to wonder what happened. But this is material energy. It's designed in that way. But Lord Chaitanya is very kind, and he gave special mercy to two very sinful. These persons were Brahmins actually, but they became very sinful, Jagai and Madai. They had no qualifications to receive the Lord's mercy. In fact, they were on the opposite end completely. But the Lord gave mercy anyway in the form of Lord Nityananda, who is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is called Karuna Avatar. He's very compassionate, very merciful. But Lord Nityananda is even more so. So both of these brothers have come into this material world, and they've sacrificed their own comforts in order for Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, gave up his nice family, his wife, his mother, his position in society, his intimacy with many of his friends, just to show compassion to the fallen conditioned souls, to wake them from this by accepting the sannyas order of life and preaching Krishna consciousness everywhere and anywhere. But despite all of the Lord's mercy, especially in this form of Chaitanya, and all of the boons and all of the mercy that he's doing, and at the same time, the conditioned soul is still struggling in their own little region of the world. It's like Prabhupada talks about the bird. The bird is in a cage, and he's in the middle of the field. So his owner opens up the cage. So the bird goes out and flies around for a while, but then he flies back into the cage. He could just fly away and be free. But he's so attached to his cage that he can't. He comes back to the same confinement again. So this is the foolish living entity. So one should understand that we need mercy. And in order to get mercy, you have to pray for mercy. In order to get mercy, you have to beg for mercy. And in order to get mercy, you have to really want that mercy. If a living entity thinks I'm all right, then how can he pray or sincerely beg for mercy? One may feel a little success in material life for a little while, but the wheels of time will change all that around. But the living entity is what we say, stubborn, foolish, and despite being beaten by a stick and suffering in so many ways, they still continue on to try to enjoy this material energy. Therefore, it's a pitiable situation. It's like Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya made it really easy, but still he was chastising some of his devotees. Still, you won't take it. Still, you won't chant. Still, you won't go to the holy places and purify yourself by associating with holy people. Still, you're stuck in your hole, and you think, if I just make my hole a little bigger, then I can move around better. Now, this is the foolish living entity. So, and therefore, when a saintly person observes the living entities in the material world, he feels sorry for them. Sometimes he even laughs, thinking, what are they doing? Why are they wasting their energy? Why are they wasting their time? Why are they doing things that are opposite their best interest? So this is the material world. Therefore, we say, probably Bhakti Siddhartha used to say, no place for a gentleman, no place for anyone who has any intelligence. For those who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined, they should not endeavor for any place in this material world, but to use their intelligence to get out of this material world and endeavor for that which is the Param Vyoma, or the spiritual sky, where life is the place where one can fulfill all of one's desires completely and perfectly. So Krishna is so merciful. Lord Chaitanya is the personification of that, Gaur-Nitai. They've come, chant, dance, take prasadam, read some books associated with devotees, engage in some practical devotion and service, and bring your friends and family members together, do the same thing. And then gradually you'll start to want to develop that love for Krishna more and more. It becomes, we actually don't have any love for Krishna. We don't even have any eagerness to be with Krishna. We think that if I could arrange my material life in a successful way, then that activity is successful. That activity is worth all of my time and energy. But time takes everything away, because time is Krishna. That's where he said, Mitya Sarva Harasya Aham. I am time. It comes in the form of death to take all of your plans and all of your projects. So therefore, the living one who is actually intelligent should think, oh, before that time comes when I have to leave this world, let me be ready to go to that place where I don't have to come back to this place. And they go to the spiritual world. So they think how to use their time to get out, not how to use their time to dig deeper into the same hole. So if we just take full shelter of Lord Chaitanya and his mercy, he is very merciful, extremely merciful, impossible to define his mercy. It's so extensive and all-pervading and so deep in compassion. Then if we don't take time, then it's like having $1 million somewhere in your house and you can't use it and you can't find it. That's unfortunate. Okay, so Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for this very wonderful, very important point, which brings a lot of details of philosophy, but also practical aspects and the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So dear devotees, I would encourage you to switch on your cameras if you can, to make the sessions more interactive, more lively, but also more personal. And I will encourage, if you have any questions, realizations, comments, you can ask, raise your hands. You can also chat it in, put your questions in the chat window, and I can ask on your behalf. Thank you. So Maharaj, whilst the devotees are contemplating, I have a question. You mentioned about our desire to control and our desire to enjoy. That's where we have the entanglement. Where does the desire to control sprout from? Which
Well, it's intrinsic in the soul's existence, because Krishna is Swarat. It mentions in the very first verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, that Krishna is Swarat, which means he is totally and completely independent. He's the supreme controller. He's the supreme enjoyer. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. And he's a friend of all living entities. Now, that's his qualities. Because we are part and parcel of him, we also have that quality in minute quantity. So we also have the propensity or the ability to control to some degree. So you see how it's done in the material world. A parent will try to control the family. The boss will try to control the employees. A teacher controls the students. The guru controls the disciples. Well, there's a control. When we control our cat or our dog, and we also try to control the material energy in its jeta form by manipulating the material energy to act in such a way. So that desire is not something that arises separately from the living entity. It's or that quality that is not separate from the living entity, it's there. But one should try to control life in such a way that they direct their enjoyment towards Krishna. So it's just dovetailing or redirecting that same propensity towards Krishna. Let me control in such a way that I arrange everything in my life that will focus myself easily and nicely in devotional service. So it's not separate from us. It's just, if it's misused, then it's the foundation for material entanglement.
Thank you, Maharaj. So Maharaj, just to follow up on this one, so how is this quality? It is inherent in us. How is this quality then manifested in a pure spiritual form in the spiritual world, the ability to control or the desire to control?
Well, you control for Krishna. In other words, you want to serve Krishna in a certain way, so they make arrangements for that service. So the goal is Krishna. The goal is Krishna's pleasure. So in order to do that, that propensity for controlling can be used in that way. Like the cowherd boys play with Krishna, and so they also make rules and regulations on how they play their games. And so in that way, they play in such a way that Krishna enjoys, or they become closer to Krishna. Like there's one game they play where Krishna is standing at a distance away, and they have a race to see who can touch Krishna first. And the boy that touches Krishna first, he says, "Oh, I won. I touched Krishna first." And then they argue like that. So they play various games like that. Radharani and the gopis also play games. They play hide and seek, which is a game we all played when we were kids. They play hide and seek in the spiritual world. Krishna hides and the gopis hide, and Radharani has to find everyone. Oh yeah, they control in order to enjoy.
Thank
That
you, Maharaj.
enjoyment is the nature of the soul's propensity because it's all connected with Krishna. Bhaktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Supriya Mataji, you raised your hands. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, to ask this question, you said that the controlling propensity comes from Krishna. We have a similar qualities as those of, qualities as that of Krishna has, and even though in minute amount. But I just want to ask, what if we go to a spiritual world after our this practice, devotional service, everything, and there we have again a desire to control because it's inherent in our nature. So won't we fall back again?
No, if you control, I was just explained how the cowherd boys try to control the games to give pleasure to Krishna. So the control propensity is that certain devotees or leaders in their groups will create different ways by which they can serve Krishna. So yeah, we do that in the material world, but we do it based on our desire to enjoy in the material world. They do it and based on to give pleasure to Krishna. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Simple. We can do that in the material world. We can try to arrange things in such a way in our life as to give Krishna enjoyment. So we may have to control things in order to do that. So therefore, you have a temple president who arranges the activities of the temple. So he has to control the temple. So the activities in the temple are beneficial for the devotees, progress in spiritual life, and at the same time are meant to glorify the Lord and please the Lord. So we have people who have different positions in the material world who are devotees, but they act in the same way as they do in the spiritual world, in self-Krishna. Any additional comments on that statement? Somebody can add something to that. There are verses that support them. Gopika or Radhika?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for your class. It was just so refreshing to hear all these things again, and it's always just so inspiring to, hear about all the things that we just need to focus on, and it just makes devotional service sound and seem so simple. So thank you for reminding us about that, Maharaj. And just as a follow-up on this question that Supriya Mataji asked, I was wondering, Maharaj, could you please elaborate a bit on like the nature of free will in the spiritual world, the nature of free will among the Nitya Siddhas? Like, because we always hear that the cause of our coming here is the misuse of free will, but then the Nitya Siddhas, they never, like there is never a single instance of a Nitya Siddha misusing the free will. Whereas in our case, the marginal potency, there are many, like all of us, we are examples of people who misused our free will. So what is the manifestation of free will like over there? And what is the distinction between their free will and our free will?
Well, they can serve Krishna in different ways. Prabhupada would say they can also change their particular designated identity. In other words, if they want to give Krishna some pleasure in a different way, they can change their identity. In other words, a cowherd boy might think, well, I want to give Krishna a lot of fruit, so let me become a tree. So I become a tree and give Krishna a lot of nice fruit. So that's, I'm just using, hypothesis here, but generally what it means is in the spiritual world, you have to understand there's no limitation. Limitation is all part of the material world. A living entity can be in so many places in the spiritual world at the same time. And still be active in all of these different places. Like there's those who are devotees of Radha and Krishna, and there's devotees who are devoted to the Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. But there's devotees who are equally devoted to both of them. So they can be in their spiritual identity and serving both of them in the spiritual world in separate manifestations of themselves. That's so you have to think in terms of the spirit means unlimited, material means limited.
Yeah.
But their limitations are within the realm of giving pleasure to Krishna or acting in such a way as to fulfill the desires of Krishna. They are also cognizant, they know what Krishna is consoling them. But sometimes Purnamasi, she is Yogamaya in the spiritual world. She covers the living entities to think in a different way, which helps them to perform the different activities in the spiritual world. Because if you know everything, what's the fun? So just like there's one story where pastime happened at a place called Hastyavani, where Krishna had just killed this big demon, and all the cowherd boys circle around him and they say, "Wow, how did you do that? That was a big demon. You killed him so easily. You know, yesterday I was wrestling with you and I beat you in wrestling. And I couldn't kill a demon like that." And another boy said, "Yeah, and yet the other day I stole your lunch and you were crying." So they act like they don't know what's going on. That's Yoga Maya. So then Krishna says, well, and then Krishna's quiet. He wasn't saying anything. And then they start making conjectures. And one boy says, well, it's his mother. She gives him the power. She teaches him this mantra for killing demons. So he has this secret mantra. Another boy says, well, it is his mother, but it's not like that. She ties armlets and amulets on his arms and legs, and therefore he has this power. So they go around guessing. And then Krishna starts speaking. He says, "You want to know how I can do that?" And they all get real excited. Their eyes get big. They circle closer to Krishna and they're all ears to hear. And Krishna says, well, when I was born, my father had a secret meeting with this great sage called Garga Rishi. And he told my father, he said, this boy of yours, this son of yours, he comes in different millenniums and he has different colors. And he is as good as Narayan. In fact, he is Narayan. So then Krishna turns to the cowherd boys and he says, so you want to know how I do it? I'm God. And they all look at each other with like bewildered looks. Then they look at Krishna and they start laughing. And they're laughing and laughing. He thinks he's God. And they're just going on like that, laughing. And finally they say, all right, let's just go fly. So this pastime happened in a place called Hastivan, where it's a place of laughter. So Krishna makes the cowherd boys laugh and laugh and laugh. So it appears that they don't know what's going on, but that's due to the Yogamaya potency. And she is the controlling deity of the spiritual world. She arranges everything to happen for Radha and Krishna's pleasure, for various activities to go on, all centered around Krishna. And so, therefore, there appears to be a bewilderment or a lack of knowledge, but that's only there for us, for pastimes. But in the material world, we forget. And that's Mahamaya, who is an expansion of Yoga Maya, to make us forget who we are and what is our real activities.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Like the pastime?
Yes, Maharaj, very much, very much.
It's written, Shiva Ram Maharaj includes that in his book, Nava Mahima?
Oh, Nava Braja Mahima.
Yeah, Nava Braja Mahima.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very sweet pastime. When I read it, I laughed for about 10 minutes. I couldn't stop laughing. I put the book down because I was afraid of dropping the book. And then I'd laughed so much I couldn't go back to reading anymore, so I had to quit. So Krishna, yeah, it was just like Krishna just. You can't meet anybody like him. There's nobody like him.
Thank you, Maharaj. That was a very wonderful explanation. Maharaj, I have a question. You made a very strong point about we need the mercy. We need to beg for mercy and really want the mercy.
Right.
We need to cry for mercy. But what happens is when we have success in the material world, we think everything is okay and we don't really need that support or mercy. And that kind of drags things down, because when everything is going okay, why do you need anything else? You're happy, you're enjoying the senses, you're enjoying all the things that's around you. And the sincerity in devotional service starts to dampen down. So I think it's a constant reminder of how things can be taken away, and we really need to contemplate that, Maharaj, or at least on my side, Maharaj.
You have to understand everything in this world is temporary. All of your achievements, all of your abilities, all of your arrangements, it's all temporary. And it'll be finished, as Prabhupada said, either today or tomorrow. So why put your attention on that? All right, you get some success, you accept it, and you go on with your devotional life. Not that causes you to increase your. For those who are grateful, if they get something beneficial, even on a material level, they think, oh, it's all by the grace of God. And therefore, they want to offer something to God. They want to do more for God just to show their gratitude. So that's intelligence. And that's a person who knows the values of life. They understand, okay, well, I got some material success. And that's due to the mercy of the Lord. They don't exclude the Lord from you. But the materialists, they can't see beyond a certain point. They calculate everything based on their own abilities and their own accomplishments. But, as Prabhupada used to say, if a person is sick, even if they have the topmost doctor in that field of medicine, if Krishna doesn't empower that doctor to save that person, that doctor can't do anything, no matter how qualified he is.
Mhm.
And the reverse is also true, whereas a person may not be so qualified and the situation looks bleak. But if Krishna wants that person to live or to get some success, it'll happen. And he's the remote cause of everything. The apparent cause is the activities we perform, but the remote cause is the hand of the Supreme.
Thank you, Maharaj. Sridevi Mataji, you want to ask a question?
Thank you. Dear
Go
Guru
ahead.
Maharaj.
Go ahead and ask your question. I'm still here.
Okay. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Guru Maharaj, my question is, as we are navigating this material world, we are carrying out our devotional activities. And in our devotional activities, we sometimes have plans and we have desires to serve in a certain way or to do something special for Krishna, to make a difference. So when we have these, maybe sometimes it will look bizarre to some people, or it will look very outlandish also. How do we know that this will actually please Krishna? Because we check in with the spiritual master, and only when the spiritual master says, yes, do like this, then go forward. Is that correct?
Well, you don't have to ask the spiritual master about every little thing. Use your common sense.
Right.
You know, it takes common sense to be a devotee. I mean, if we're a little baby, then we have to, get the blessings of our mother and father. But growing up, we should be a little bit aware how to do things and what not to do. Something like that, you just use your common sense or ask your best friend.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Prabhupada always wanted us to use our common sense and how to do things. He didn't want us to etherealize everything, that everything is so mystical and so, when we say beyond our understanding, use your common sense. How to do things.
Thank you, Sridevi Mataji. Scarlett Mataji, you had a question. Would you like to ask?
Yes, please. Hare Krishna. Thank you for very, very good class here. I have two questions. If I may ask both of them at the same time, is it okay?
Well, I can only answer one at a time.
I can understand, but I meant I ask my question and then I listen to the question to the answer. Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead, ask both of them.
Okay, thank you very much. My first question is, in my learning and studying and understanding, I might have wrong, but in that situation, I have learned about we are born with decision that we have some kind of something that we have with us that we have to act or to go through or to experience here. And this whatever I do, I still have to go through the things that it has been written on me, on my, what to say, soul, or what you call, on my future and my destiny. It's written there that I have to go through something. That is not changeable at all, regardless to what I do. This is my first question, if it's like that, or if I can change it. This is my first question. My second question, I have read in Bhagavad Gita 3:37 that the desire comes from suffering. And of course, my desire is like, I want to be spiritual. I want to really practice the spiritual life and so on and so on. But still, it's desire. It's my desire, but it comes from this suffering. Is it wrong to have this desire? It means, is it wrong to have this desire just because it's desire?
I got the question.
Thank you.
The first thing is that this destiny or karma is mitigated and ultimately eradicated by the power of devotional service. When the spiritual master initiates the disciple, he removes the reactions of much of their karma. So as long as you're still performing material activities, you're still planning your material destinies and karma. When you take up spiritual activities, you're reducing the effects of those. It's like when you pull out the plug of a fan, it still turns for a while, but still eventually it'll stop if you don't replug it back in again. So stay in devotional service and then your destiny is good. And the second question was, desire is the nature of the living entity's existence. One cannot stop desire, or one can qualify their desire. So there's material desire, there's spiritual desire. Material desire leads to suffering, spiritual desire leads to elevation of consciousness towards Krishna. That's all. Change, stop desiring materially, start desiring spiritually.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mataji. Any other questions, realizations, devotees? Just a comment on my side. I find this analogy very humorous, but also powerful that you made, that we make a hole a bit bigger and we think that we can move, and we have more space to move around. But it leads to frustration. So I found it quite amusing.
Yeah. It is amusing when you see, Like there's a person who's called the Joker, whose his business is to make people laugh. So that is the materialistic. It's so ridiculous that it actually becomes a source of humor. But you can only see that if you're in devotional service. If you are part of that same program, it just seems like, well, you know, it's a little difficult, but it's what everybody does. Until we understand that this material world has no future for us at all, and it's simply meant to crush the living entity down so it can continually be an illusion that material happiness is the only goal of life. So the point is that one has to be convinced that there's no happiness here. But we're not convinced, and therefore we still continue to suffer.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Scarlet Mataji, you had your hands up, so you have another question?
Yes, please, but it has nothing to do with today's subject.
All right. Oh, let's close it down and forget it. So
Okay.
Let's stick to today's subject here. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much, and tomorrow we'll see you all again. Yeah. And I wanted to speak with you also, Dinanath, so maybe we can have a phone conversation if you're available.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll call you after the program. And-
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much for today's class.
Thank you.
Hari.
Hare Krishna, Dear Gurudev. Thank you very much for the class. Thank you.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you
patitanam
very much.
pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
Vaishnav Vrinda ki
Jai.
jai. Wow.